Welcome to the West Valley Industry Spotlight. And today we are focused on a booming sector, which is transportation and logistics, to include supply chain management. We're really glad that you joined us, whether it's live or you're watching a recording. I'm your moderator, Christine Gannon. I'm the CEO of Brightworks Consulting. And again, today's webinar is recorded. It's number 5 in our series. We've also had other webinars on other industries that you can find. There's a link in the chat on the Westmark Pipeline AZ site, but other industries that include healthcare, advanced business services, along with IT and others. So we invite you to check that out. If this is new for you and this is the first webinar that you've joined us for, we've titled the progression of industry events and these webinars, the West Valley Industry Spotlight and Virtual Job Matching Series, which works in collaboration with the 15 communities of the West Valley, supporting the West Valley population of over 1.7 million residents. And I think that number is probably changing dramatically by the day. This webinar series brings together subject matter experts in industry, workforce training and education to highlight the needs, opportunities, pathways, and resources for careers in this specific industry. There's a job matching component that will connect employers and job seekers based on skills via the Pipeline AZ platform, which you're going to learn about in a little bit. Both employers and job seekers will receive assistance with onboarding and career navigation at no cost. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Again, you'll have additional resources provided to you for each and every person that registered after this webinar. The job matching component, which again, you'll learn about in just a few minutes, will take place between today and August 24th. So a few weeks. So if you haven't already, please complete your profile to participate in the job matching event, westmark.pipelineaz.com. Again, it'll be a link in the chat. For context, the West Valley Pipeline is the West Valley's regional workforce development strategy, and it's the only regional workforce strategy in our state. This series supports that strategy, and the intent is to spotlight this industry, specifically today, transportation and logistics, but others, and connect West Valley talent and employers together. So before we introduce the series and get started with our subject matter experts, let me thank our sponsor. Arizona State University's West Campus is the title sponsor of the Industry Spotlight series. The following ASU entities bring this effort to the West Valley, and that includes the ASU College of Health Solutions, ASU Edson College of Nursing and Health Innovation, ASU's New College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, and the ASU Office of Government and Community Engagement. And now we have a video for you. Thank you to ASU, the West Valley campus. Let's get started with our panel of industry experts. Our first panelist is Julie Pettit. She's the president of Arizona Gateway Logistics, which is a logistics and international trade consulting and management firm. Her background is in regulatory compliance, forming operational processes and procedures, and international supply chain management. A little bit about Julie. She's been working in the industry since 1989 and has held management positions since 1994, to include the director of sourcing and supply at Ericsson, Inc. And while at Ericsson, she was the lead negotiator and program manager of the Sony Ericsson Strategic Alliance, which is a multi-billion-dollar research and development agreement. She was also elected an official on the Chino Valley Fire District, where she led efforts to form the first joint powers agreement in Arizona. She then continued on as the board chair of the Central Arizona Fire and Medical Authority Board in Yavapai County for 4 years. Julie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be here, and I think we're getting us started with the presentation. Thank you to Westmark and of course for ASU for their sponsorship for this webinar. My name is Julie Pettit, and I have been around for a few years, so hopefully I have a few things to say about logistics and international trade. So if we could go ahead and we'll just get right into it so we don't waste anybody's time. I'll just get a business summary for Arizona Gateway Logistics. Of course, our mission is to provide any kind of solution, comprehensive consulting and service portfolio. We specialize in best practices and identify opportunities for our clients to be able to stay not only compliant with regulation, but also to manage their flow-through process. Our services portfolio are plentiful because I do come from a customs background. I am a licensed customs broker, and so I am able to consult on many array of things regarding trade compliance. One of my specialties is, of course, foreign trade zone here in Arizona, but also vendor management performance, having traveled with Ericsson to do just that very thing internationally. And being agile and small, we can scale to whatever our clients' needs. Go ahead. So logistics industry is very interesting because it's actually the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals, which is an organization I belong to, defines logistics as you see here on the screen. And it's a part of the supply chain management, but it is not the whole encompassing supply chain. So it is very specific within the supply chain management process. And it is basically to move the goods. This is where the rubber hits the road. So it regards imports, exports, and domestic. Nothing is out of bounds when it comes to moving goods. And truck, rail, and air, we do have direct conveyances here in the Port of Phoenix. Ocean, we get via direct conveyance at the ports, obviously, but then that's also moved on to the truck, rail, or air, whatever we might need. And there are both company-owned warehouses and third-party owned and managed warehouses here in the Port of Phoenix, which continues to grow. In fact, I believe I just read in the Phoenix Business Journal that 25 million square feet of office space is currently in construction in Arizona, in the metro area. So that's quite a boom for Arizona. Go ahead. So from an employment outlook, this is one of the things that we were talking about earlier, is that there's all kinds of opportunities in the Arizona area, and particularly the West Valley. I'm sure anybody who's traversed the 303 or the west side of the I-10, you can see that there's plenty of buildings that are going up and a lot of banners that say we're hiring. And these jobs consist of shipping and receiving, warehouse workers. It's very specific to the cargo and being able to bring it into these warehouses and then distribute it out to their clients. But in particular, truck drivers, local and long haul, are the one thing that is a huge congestion piece in the logistics today. It's one of our challenges. If you go ahead and go over to the challenges. Because what's happening is we're running out of equipment. The American Shipper this morning actually posted that Maersk has seen a Q2 blockbuster quarter, which means a lot of containers have moved. And a lot of those containers are coming here. In fact, Long Beach has reported that they have more vessels out at anchor than they do at the berth. So that means that they have more vessels coming in than they have pier side availability. So we're starting to see that congestion pick up. So these are the areas where logistics is really focused on, is how do we move these goods seamlessly and cost effectively. One of the challenges in particular, of course, that's unique to 2020 and coming into 2021 is the unemployment benefits being greater than starting salaries. So people who are, new in the industry or trying to get established in the industry haven't quite yet stopped, even though in May, the governor said that as of July, we would no longer be accepting the federal piece of the unemployment benefits. That didn't really change our ability to hire during that time period. Now in August, we're starting to see a little more uptick of people who are applying for jobs. Go ahead. So in the logistics employment opportunities, the West Valley is ripe for hiring. Not only am I looking for employees, but so is Amazon, REI, Walmart. All these companies in the West Valley are hiring, and they're not just hiring for someone to move a box. They're hiring for analysts, for supply chain analysts. So you have office opportunities. You have, of course, just your standard warehouse opportunities. And then when it comes to production, you've got Ball. I did not put them on here, but I know that Ball Corporation is also looking for people, and they're in a manufacturing setting. Sub-Zero constantly hires in a manufacturing setting. And then, of course, you have companies like CR England who are moving the goods over the road. In this Port of Phoenix, in the Port of Phoenix, though, one of the bottlenecks we have is not being able to move things fast enough. So just to illustrate, one of the constraints that we have is the Port of Long Beach. You would think that on a map it says it's going to take 6 hours to get from Long Beach. The reality is that we're averaging 9 days from the time that the vessel works at the pier until we can get it here to Arizona. And so rail is becoming more important to our future as far as how we're going to be moving goods off of LA Long Beach into Phoenix, the Phoenix metro area, faster and more efficiently. So you can start to look for some opportunities with rail as that starts to increase, which I have seen in other areas of the state. So logistics is a very exciting industry because even in the shutdown that we saw worldwide, Long Beach never truly shut down. They couldn't, because they had stuff that was on the water. They had to accept the goods. REI never officially shut down. Amazon never shut down. I certainly know that I got my Amazon packages during the shutdown, so I know that they were working. And Five Below is actually prospered even with the shutdown. Not only have they built their new distribution center in Buckeye, but they've also broken ground in Indiana. So they continue to grow and expand. So the outlook, while we've come through a very dark period in our economy and perhaps personally, the outlook is very positive, and Arizona is poised, particularly in the West Valley, by evidence of the amount of construction going on, the West Valley in particular, that Arizona is poised to come back, and I believe stronger than ever. So I'm very excited to be a part of that industry and that network. That's really all I have.
Julie, thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you for making logistics real, because now I have a great visual, and I'm sure our participants do. I have 2 questions for you, and we're going to have time for Q&A in just a little bit for our audience. But one is, are all of your positions in person, or do you have any remote positions as well? Like, do you know of logistics that are remote?
Well, on the analyst side, they can go remote, probably.
Uh-oh. I think Zoom froze there for a minute. We'll
Actually, excuse me?
You were frozen for a minute. We didn't hear your response.
Okay, sorry. What I'm saying is that what I've seen in particular in my company is it's been very difficult to hire remotely because you have to have that one-on-one interaction to train. We use a lot of software, and it's not necessarily intuitive. So when you are doing your clerical work or your analytical work, once you're trained, we are working in a hybrid world. So I do have employees who come in maybe to go look at the physical racks of where's the cargo, but then they can do the processing piece once they're trained remotely. So it's actually given a nice work-life balance to my employees, because we don't have to be slave to being someplace and worry about our other obligations that are going on.
Awesome. And then my second question is related to training, which you touched on a little bit. If someone is listening today and they don't have experience in logistics, is there on-the-job training available?
Yes, in the starting positions there is, and a lot of us prefer that because we're not unlearning old behaviors. So we get to train them. I can't train character, but I certainly can train a job and the work requirements for that. So that's what I look for in employees, is someone who is open and willing to learn, and then self-confident enough that once they feel that they've gone through the training, that they can start to expand on their knowledge and push outside of what just that little piece of training.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great presentation. And again, to our audience, if you have questions, we'll have time for Q&A. So please feel free to drop them in the chat. So we are going to move on to our next subject matter industry expert. We have Rick Dirks with us from Dirks Moving and Logistics. A little bit about Rick. He is the Executive Vice President and co-owner for the past 31 years. He's responsible for sales and marketing functions. He was an agent for Mayflower Van Lines and the #1 quality agent and 4th largest agent for Mayflower nationally. He's an honorary commander at Luke Air Force Base. He's on the board of directors for several groups, to include Greater Phoenix Chamber, Better Business Bureau, as well as Westmark. He was awarded the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce Small Business Person of the Year. He is also a winner of the Arizona Business Leadership Award from ASU as an alumni, and he's been a resident of our great state since 1978. Rick, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. And thanks to Westmark for putting this on. I've been a longtime member of Westmark as well as a board member, so proud to be associated with Westmark. And also thanks to ASU for for sponsoring this. I'm a Sun Devil graduate, whole family graduated there, and been very involved with ASU for the 30-year run of our business. So we appreciate you guys a whole lot. So, okay, what I'm going to do, just to tell you real quick, what I'll go through today is a little bit about my own personal career journey, how I got to where I am. I'll give you a little overview of our company, and then talk about some of the industry trends in the world of logistics and transportation, as well as some career paths here at Dirks. Talk a little bit about some of our education and training partnerships. And if I have a couple minutes at the end, just give a few little tips that I've compiled over the years on interviewing and career preparation. So with that, talk a little bit about my journey. So next slide, please. I grew up, I think it's interesting when you look at careers, how people have a tendency to go into things they're familiar with. And that's exactly what happened to me. I grew up, my dad was in the moving business, so I grew up loading trucks and doing that. When I came to ASU and graduated marketing, my first job was outside of transportation, moving, and I kind of got sucked back into it because it's what I knew. Fortunately, I didn't have to drive the trucks anymore. That was too much work for me, but I got to talk about it. So I got into the moving and logistics business following then, and grew in responsibilities in other companies here in California. And then 31 years ago, my brother and I, we put our heads together and said, I think it's time to start do this on our own, so I don't have to have other people tell us how to do things, which I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but that's kind of how we got to where we were. So next slide, and you can go by that one as well. Just give you a little overview on what we're all about, how we relate to the transportation and logistics world. Christine already made some of these points, so I won't belabor any of these, other than it's my brother and I that own the company. We've owned the company for over 30 years now. We started it from scratch. We now have about 150 employees. We are the largest moving company in Arizona, and among larger in logistics, but there's some pretty big guys out there, the Amazons of the world that Julie talked about. So some of the real big boys. So we're certainly a smaller scale than that. We do have 5 buildings between Tucson and Phoenix, warehouses, and I'll talk a little about that. Julie mentioned that, just about the boom in warehouse space, especially in the West Valley. And we've been participating in that as we have 5 buildings now full of stuff. The final thing is just our company is divided into 3 units. We have household goods, which is residential moving of families, which is where we have the Mayflower brand. So we move people around the corner, around the world as far as that goes. Then we have business services, which is commercial moving, office moving, plant moving, manufacturing facilities. And then we have logistics, which really involves warehousing and distribution of goods, asset management, things like that. So those are our 3 operating groups that we have. So next. Talk real briefly, just a little about more of who we are and what we're all about. Our core values are, everything's based around the customer. So we try to be as customer centric as we can. Our job is to solve solutions for our customers and help them in this crazy supply chain world we live in, which I'll talk about that in a minute. We also believe in being technology based as much as possible. Historically, transportation supply chain has not been a real techie world, but it's changed very, very quickly in regard, and we're able to use IT tools to gain efficiency. So we try to participate with that. And our 3rd core value is we want to be leaders. We want to be leaders in our industry. My brother is involved with all the boards of trucking associations and moving associations, things like that. And I'm kind of the community guy. So as Christine mentioned, I'm on quite a few boards around town. That really initially started as kind of a business thing. Now it's become more of a personal thing. I want to try to make the community a little better place when I leave than when I got here. So that's a little about our core values. Next. Just a bit about our culture. Our culture is very important to us because the logistics and supply chain world it's very commoditized. There aren't a lot of great differences in what people do. The big differentiator most of the time is the people and how we deal with our customers. So our culture is all about our people and hiring the best people we can find, putting them in position to do their job, and then let them do it. I know, Julie, you alluded to, you had a question about experience and all that. We're big believers to find good people, find quality people, and you can teach them how to do your work. You really can't teach character and ethics and morals and things like that. So that's really important that we feel that way, that every we want to have the customer in mind with every decision we make, and the people that we hire. We also believe in keeping score business. Some of you may have heard of The Great Game of Business. It's a book and a thinking of, we have scorecards to track how we do things. We really believe in keeping score, and that includes awards. We're kind of award driven. We think people get jazzed up to do it. So we try to do as much of that as we can, and to give recognition to people, but also to show we do pretty good things. So that's that. Next. I kind of talked about this briefly, but we do, and I'll be directing most of my comments this morning to more the logistics side of our business and as it affects supply chain. So we're pretty big in the warehousing world and internet fulfillment. Obviously, people buying products through Amazon, that's here to stay, of course. So we've kind of gotten on that bandwagon, and we do a lot of internet fulfillment, things like that. But also we manage assets for companies and have lots of quirky kind of fun things that we warehouse that makes it more interesting than just putting a bunch of boxes in the building. So that's a little about what we do. Okay, next. Talk a little about the trends, and again, I'm going to direct it more towards supply chain and logistics than I'm regarding moving. And Julie, you did a really nice job of kind of teeing it up to say what we're dealing with out there. Our supply chain has never been as disrupted as it's been disrupted in the last year and a half. And I think you alluding to the Julie about the ports, that's one thing that's really, really changed, is trying to get supplies from overseas has been disrupted big time. And I've heard stories of, 30, 40, 50 ships sitting out in the port of Long Beach because they can't get them to unload into the port and get those products into us. I think the best example most people can relate to is the toilet paper crisis of 2000 when there wasn't toilet paper available. We've kind of had that issue firsthand. We've been involved with PPE in the hospitals. They had a real problem keeping up with gowns and masks and gloves. And so we've been very involved with them trying to get it here quicker to supply their customers. So a little typo there, but work from home is here to stay. That's created a big trend. And I know we alluded to work from home, which I'll address that in a bit as well. That's become a thing now. Some like it, some don't like it, but it's here to stay. And that's had a huge impact in hiring people and company culture, things like that with work from home. So that's become a huge deal. One statistic I just saw is that we're going to be needing 300 million square feet of warehouse space in the United States. And that's the whole Amazon phenomena of people ordering from home and we're seeing in the West Valley. It's crazy, all the big buildings going up. We built a 100,000 square foot building 15 years ago. That was considered big. Now that's a pebble in the ocean with these million square foot buildings popping up all over the place. So there's going to be a need for 300 million square feet of warehouse space, which is going to create a lot of demand for a lot of jobs. So supply chain professionals are becoming huger and huger in demand right now. And I know we're represented here by ASU. ASU's got a very large and world-class ranked supply chain school, which is really important. We need professionals to help navigate us through the supply chain issues we have out there. Another big trend is just the hiring of top people is at a premium. It's really, really hard to hire people. So those of you out in the job market, I think are in a pretty good position right now because we're in such great need of good quality people and with few jobs available and a lot of people, it's obviously competitive out there, but boy, we need good people. So there's going to be a huge need really all up and down the channel from supply chain professionals, IT folks, things like that, right down to warehouse staff, truck drivers, and administrative people. So the need is everywhere. Julie, you also alluded to the truck shortage. Yeah, there's a real problem getting goods via trucks from point A to point B. We're experiencing that firsthand. You just can't find the people wanting to drive a truck anymore. So when you start going to the driverless cars, driverless trucks, that's coming pretty fast because there's just a great need for it. So we're gonna see that really change coming here into the very near future. So next slide. At Dirk's, kind of what we look at the trends and career paths for us, first of all, we have a shortage. As I said, we have about 150 employees. We are always about 10% short on people. So it's a constant battle for us to keep staffed just because we do have low unemployment. You know, again, the work from home, people have decided they can live wherever they want to live. So we've had a huge demand for people moving long distance because people want to move back to Ohio or my family's from or whatever. So it's really changed dynamics of hiring a lot. And it's really all levels of employment too, from executive all the way down into the frontline mover category, warehouse people, things like that. So at Dirk's right now, we're actively looking for people and just a little bit of what we're looking for. We want character people, kind of again, as Julie mentioned, we can train people into doing what most jobs, it's not high tech we're doing by and large. So we need good quality people that have a desire to move up or move into different positions. We've really learned that people will come to work in one position, they might be there a year or two and they say, I don't like doing what I'm doing anymore. Do you have something else for us? So we're very sensitive and conscious of that. So we want long-term people. We want to reward people for longevity and be able to move them around if their career path might change. So we really don't have a cookie cutter career path approach. Ours is all personalized for the individuals. We have a management training program. People are just desiring that, but we also have people that want to, we have people who want to answer the phone. That's what I do. I'm a receptionist. I'm happy doing that. And, God bless them. We need them too. So very important. Okay, next slide. Just to talk very briefly about some of the programs that we have or some of our partners that we have in training and education. We work very hard in our industry groups to do that, which is probably a little consequence to people on this call. But we also have partnerships we've had long-term with ASU and with their workforce development folks. Recently, we've gotten very involved with Grand Canyon University. They're a huge growth university here in the West Valley and are doing a great job of putting out students. So I found when I graduated from college, I wasn't ready. I wasn't involved enough with the real world. I was there to get a piece of paper to graduate more so than really focusing on what I was going to do. And I'd love to see the kids today that are much more conscious of that. So we're helping kids try to help them find their path as well with internships, et cetera. Also involved in the community college system, and as well as 2 programs, obviously Pipeline AZ, which is a great program here in Westmark, as well as Elevate AZ, which is a Chamber of Commerce program. So some things that we're doing. And finally, and I'll buzz through the next one real quick, because I know we're up on time. But just I have a few tips that over the years I've learned, and both as an employee as well as an employer, in terms of preparing for a career. And a couple I'll just mention. Begin by dreaming. First, do what you want to do. I love the younger generation today. They look for jobs, their passion as opposed to a job. So I would encourage everybody, dream, find your passion and go for it. Next slide is just a couple of interviewing tips that to mention, because I interview a lot of people. We interview a lot of people, and it's surprising how many people aren't fully prepared to do an interview. And it's the front door of you getting a job. So I think it's always really critical. So just a few tips there to be on time, do your homework. I'm flattered. The last one's flattery gets you everywhere. People have done their homework on an employer. We love to hear that. You're gonna get a better look because they seem to care about you as a company. So do that homework. Dress a little nicer. We've had people come into administrative positions in shorts and things. It always dress a little nicer than you think you should dress, and you'll leave a good first impression. Because first impressions are huge. My biggest probably lesson at all in what I do, and my goal in my people, is be likable. People want to do business with people they like. Therefore, do everything you can to be likable, and that's a great sales trait, but it's also just a good human trait in my opinion. And also be real. You are who you are, and let that shine through when you're talking to a prospective employer. I know it's nerve-wracking doing interviews, et cetera, but it's really nice to be able to be yourself, because I want to deal with real people. So that's it from here.
Rick, thank you so much. Great presentation. Your last couple of slides, awesome. Really good information for our attendees today. A couple of things I just wanted to confirm for you out of your presentation. One, it sounds like most of your positions are in person, but some may be remote, or no?
We're actually about 3/4 in person and a quarter offsite. So we have a lot of people offsite, and a lot of that's driven by people with experience more so than the desire to work offsite. We have people in other parts of the country. So certain jobs we have to have locally. Obviously, you're driving a truck, working in a warehouse, things like that, and managing those processes. But otherwise, we're very open to both ways. We just had a key management position we wanted on site. We couldn't find anybody locally, and they're working off site. So we're pretty open to it. But I really believe culture is important. So we like the majority of people to be in-house if possible.
Absolutely. And then the second thing is, it sounds like, just based on your slides, you will provide training. And it sounds like the skills that you're looking for are transferable from other industries if we have job seekers that are looking to transfer from another industry. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think, Julie, you said it really well too, when you said you don't want to untrain people's bad habits. In some ways, it's better to have people in other industries because they don't think like you think. And I always want fresh ideas and people to think outside the box. That's a huge thing for us. So absolutely.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Great presentation. And again, for our audience, please drop your questions. We'll have time for Q&A after this next presentation. Next up, our subject matter expert in this industry is Kate Kochendifer. I don't know if I said that right. I'm so sorry. From SRP. Kate is the Senior Director of Supply Chain, Transportation, and Flight Services at Salt River Project. And for those of you who don't know, SRP is a community-based, not-for-profit water and energy company that provides reliable, affordable water and power to more than 2 million people living in Central Arizona. Kate currently serves as the chair of the board of directors for the Glendale Chamber of Commerce. And on a personal note, Kate and her husband can be found sitting by a baseball field most weekends and evenings, watching their son and daughter play ball. Kate, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here today. I'm excited to share a little bit about the utility industry and also how supply chain and transportation really support the utility industry in general. So it's tough going after Julie and Rick. This is their lifelong career. This is their focus. My focus actually started in IT. So, but it was supporting supply chain systems. So I've been in supply chain for a very long time, just in a different type of supply chain position. If we can jump to the next slide. All right, so you talked a little bit about what SRP is. Most folks know SRP is a power company. We provide power to over 1 million customers throughout the state of Arizona. What people don't know is we also provide 244 billion gallons of water to valley cities. We deliver irrigation to farm, parks, and homes. So this is a side of SRP that makes us unique when you compare us to another power company like APS. We do partner very well with APS. Those on the west side probably see a few more APS trucks than they do SRP. However, both SRP and APS provide power throughout the state of Arizona and partner very well with each other. Go to the next slide. All right, so a little bit about SRP. We have over 5,500 employees from all levels employees, from entry-level positions all the way up into leadership positions. We're a great company, great culture. You talk to employees, you know, it's rare to find an employee unless they're brand new who hasn't been there for 10 plus years. In fact, we just celebrated one of our inspectors in transportation, his 55-year anniversary at working for SRP. So it's a great company. As you can see from the screen, we have lots of benefits working for SRP. From 401k to pension to sick leave to medical, dental, tuition assistance. So we partner with universities throughout Arizona, as well as community colleges, with trade schools, with high schools even. So we like to show our support of the education community, and we really partner. We do a lot of internships. So I have an individual on my staff who actually started her career through an internship in high school, worked her way by working at SRP and having SRP help with tuition through her ASU degree. And she's now been with SRP for over 20 years. So that shows you that you can start as an intern and work your way through your education as well as work your way up in the company. So lots of great opportunities. We love to volunteer. Just as Julie and Rick said, a lot goes into our culture. We look for employees who fit our culture, who are willing to learn, who have a great attitude, want to do their jobs well, want to move on to do other things, more so than being an expert in a position. With that, we can jump to the next slide. All right, a little bit about my personal journey, how I got here. Again, my career actually started in IT. I worked for a company called PeopleSoft supporting supply chain systems. So PeopleSoft was bought out by Oracle. Most of you probably heard a little bit about Oracle or SAP. They do a lot of the back office systems. My job was supporting purchasing, warehousing, accounts payable, finance. So I learned a lot about how supply chain functions from a technical standpoint. I then had the opportunity to come work for SRP. I thought, well, you know, I will go learn about utilities, stay maybe 5 years, learn a little bit about what the utility industry does and how we can help from a supply chain technology standpoint. 20 years later, I'm still with SRP and currently in my position as the Senior Director of Supply Chain Transportation and Flight Services. I love my position. I love that we are an internal support organization that supports our core business areas. So when I say that, we support our power and water groups. So distribution, transmission, generation, water, we make sure they have everything they need to support our end customers. It's been a great opportunity. We enjoy doing what we do. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about specifically our teams in a minute. As far as my education goes, I was born in Colorado, but I say I was basically raised here in Arizona. I was raised on the east side of town. However, I now live on the west side of the valley. I went to Northern Arizona University. I got my graduate degree from GCU. I'm definitely big on education. I'm on an education committee for the Glendale Chamber of Commerce. Definitely supportive. SRP is supportive. Again, we have entry-level positions where you can get into the company and then work on your education while you're working at SRP. And if you want to jump to the next slide, I think both Julie and Rick hit on this a lot. I have never seen in my 20 years of supporting supply chain, I have never seen the supply chain so impacted. This is really good and really bad. I will say really good because I've never heard supply chain as such a buzzword. It is, we get pulled into more meetings than we ever have because of the impacts on the supply chain. So as a service organization, this is great for us. We have a spotlight on us right now. We're able to really focus on having a seat at the table, talking about, hey, our lead times, not only are they double what they used to be, they're triple, quadruple. You know, the lead times are insane through the pandemic, natural disasters, there's labor shortages, we're seeing technology changes as well as regulatory. It's a great spotlight. It's also a little stressful. Our team has had to really buckle down, show what we can do. We communicate a lot. Communication is key. Talking to our stakeholders, talking about what material we currently have, what material we need, the lead times to get that material, and then being creative. Our logistics team has been very creative. As Julie and Rick both talked about, there are labor shortages, especially around truck drivers. Thankfully, SRP has our own logistics team. We do inbound, outbound logistics. We coordinate with outside logistics firms to expedite orders. When we're in a situation where we have a critical piece of equipment that SRP needs to keep a customer in power, we actually rely on our own hauling team if we're unable to find an outside logistics firm to help us. So we will actually use our own flight services team to fly a truck driver out to an area and drive a piece of equipment back. Or we will put it on our jet and bring it back to Arizona. So we've had to be very creative over the last year, but it's been great. It's been a great opportunity to see how creative and collaborative our team is. I talked about some of the impacts, inflation, we're seeing prices increase, lead times crazy, and really overall logistics impacts. I think both Julie and Rick hit on that. The teams have been very creative, I will say that, and definitely partnering better than we ever have with our suppliers. Jump into the next slide, specific on our transportation team. So our transportation team at SRP manages well over 500 pieces of equipment. So we do anything from our day-to-day sedans to utility trucks, to our big power trucks, cranes, generators. So we're all around, we support SRP all around from an equipment standpoint. Some of the challenges we're seeing, obviously the disruption in supply chain is impacting our transportation team. Vehicles are delayed, especially electric vehicles. Some of the vehicles we ordered to introduce to our fleet this year are delayed potentially up to a year before we receive them in. Digital transformation, environmental, as I mentioned, electrification of the fleet is a big one. We're looking at what we can do to help reduce carbon throughout our footprint at SRP. So where can we take a fuel operated vehicle out of service and put in an electric vehicle? Impacts again, manufacturing delays due to the supply chain issues, retooling of employees. Something that we're really looking for is employees who are open to learning technology. I will say basically anything that we're doing in our garages now has something to do with technology. Hooking a computer up to a car, to a truck, to a crane. You really have to be open to learning technology no matter what position you're in within the supply chain and transportation. All right, so we can go to the next slide. All right, so as I mentioned, challenges equal opportunities. Maricopa County is the fastest growing county in the United States. This is amazing. It's a little scary for a utility company because we have to keep up with the demand, but it's also exciting. It's bringing so many jobs. We're seeing so many large customers coming to the valley, both the west side of the valley, east valley, central. we're seeing unprecedented growth within the large customer base, not just residential. Housing permits are at their highest since the mid 2000s. This is also great. We're going to see a lot of jobs within the state of Arizona. Utility industry, we're growing rapidly. We're changing. We're looking for more solar power. As you've probably heard, we are stepping away from coal. So we recently closed our coal plant up in Page, Arizona. As a result of that, we're having to shift our focus onto gas power plants as well as environmental, so more solar, more wind. We're looking at other options to ensure that the power is here for our customers in Arizona. This also focuses a lot on jobs within the supply chain and transportation, not just in the utility industry, but those that support the utility industry. We rely a lot on our logistics providers outside of SRP to get all the equipment, the services that we need. And I see growth coming, great job opportunities, both internally at SRP as well as for those who support the utility industry. Next slide, please. Again, career opportunities. We have at SRP within my teams, we have a wide range of job opportunities as well as skills. So entry-level positions, material handlers, truck driver, trades helpers, auto technician. We have an auto parts team. You know, these these are hourly positions starting around $24 an hour with full benefit packages. We go up to salaried positions. So looking for mechanical engineers, purchasing agents, contract analysts, inbound, outbound logistics coordinators. So we have a wide variety of positions. SRP will be hiring over the next several years. So we have positions posted on our external website every week. They get updated. So it's some place to log your information so that our recruiters look for you, look for the different skill sets. I know for sure in supply chain over the next year, we will be looking for both permanent as well as contract help. And with that, I think I am on my last slide. So I thank you all very much. I'll hand it back to you, Christine.
Thank you so much, Kate. We're going to take a minute for Q&A, but I wanted to just confirm a couple things with you as well in terms of your presentation. It sounds like there's a good mix of remote and in-person work opportunities. True?
That is true. Yes. So obviously, same as Rick mentioned, warehouse positions are mostly on site, as well as our truck drivers, mechanics. But a majority of our team has been working from home since the pandemic, and SRP is looking at future telework opportunities. So a lot of our purchasing team will stay remote. They'll come back on for in-person, all hands meeting, connection meetings. You know, we'll start those connections again. But at the same time, we will have long-term telework positions.
Awesome. And then as well, what I asked Rick in terms of the transferable skills, if we have job seekers looking to transfer into this industry and or maybe start a career, is training provided, or do they need to come with some kind of background in utility?
No, training is definitely provided. As I mentioned before, you know, my background is not utility. And I was able to step in at SRP and learn so much from the individuals that are there. Again, we have entry-level positions you can step into. We'll train you. We have internships that will train you. So many of opportunities for training at SRP.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great presentation. I'm encouraging you to drop your questions in. We do have one that I'd like to ask our prior presenters, Kate, Rick, and Julie, to answer if you can. The question is, how does one with no supply chain or logistics experience secure an internship and gain experience? And I think this is more tactical, right? How would someone do this? If one or all of you could comment on that.
Okay, I'll comment for me because we're obviously our program isn't as formal as a larger employer like an SRP that has much more robust one. With us, we almost customize them. So what I would encourage if anyone's interested is reach out to me or reach out to our human resources manager and say I'm interested. And because everything we do is one off in that way. And And we just created internship positions based upon, a dual interest between them and us. So there's nothing formal in our way of doing it.
Thank you. Kate or Julie?
So I can jump in real quick. So I will say we're a little bit more formal than that. I do think some of our internships come up and we create them out of innovation discussions with students. However, most of them are posted on our external website when we're looking for student interns, all different levels. So we look for engineering students to technical school interns that might work in warehousing, transportation, or even the electric side of the company. So most of our internships are posted, and we post them at all times of the year. So it isn't just when school's starting. In fact, a lot of our positions open up during the summer when students are graduating and they have to move on to a permanent position.
I've also been more informal in the way that I've handled that I stay in contact with the career counselors at the community college level. So, that would be an avenue to see if there could be something worked out. So like Rick said, it's informal. If you get this superstar that, somebody comes and says, here's this resume, here's their, their school resume, this is what they're doing, and they're excited about wanting to get into the field, then we do take a look and say, well, how can we work with this person? Because we definitely want to get them started in the right direction.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any other questions? I don't see anything in the chat or the Q&A. But we will leave it open. So we are going to move on to the next section of our webinar, talking about education, training pathways, innovations, and partnerships. And our first speaker is Dr. Hitendra Chaturvedi from ASU. A little bit about Dr. Chaturvedi. Hitendra comes to us after a successful exit from a pioneering reverse logistics startup in India called Green Dust, which he founded and raised multi-million-dollar venture funds from the likes of Kleiner Perkins Caufield, Bauer, and he built a lasting legacy in India. He's a computer engineer from IIT Rourke with an MS and MBA from the United States. He started his career in 1995 working as a consultant for Ernst & Young and then A.T. Kearney. Consulting acted as a catalyst to his first startup experience through an Austin venture and a funded company. Family reasons dictated a move to Seattle with Microsoft, where he worked in competitive strategy, marketing, and OEM supply chain. He's a celebrated author, sits on advisory committees of many startups and incubators. He's a guest speaker at numerous universities and has been widely covered in press and media as a subject matter expert on global supply chain strategy, green sustainability and supply chain, digitizing traditional supply chains, and reverse logistics. He loves to fly airplanes, make wine, paint, scuba dive, skydive, ride motorcycles, and has traveled to 75 countries, and most importantly, spend quality time with his family. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I guess, Rick, even though I fly airplanes, Air Force never came calling on my door. So, but anyways, I guess the key point I'd like to mention, and we'll stay on this slide for a second. Jokes aside, how many of you, when you are on a Zoom call, are sitting in your shorts with a nice top and not worrying about, because we can only see you up. I'm pretty sure many of you on this call also are doing that if you're not sitting in your offices. Why I bring this up is because it has got a supply chain implication. You're not buying expensive stuff. There are certain brands that your shoes, formal shoes and trousers or dresses are not being bought. That is a direct supply chain implication. Julie and Rick talked about how there is such a churn in demand and supply. So whether it's toilet paper shortage or food shortages that we were talking about just a few months ago, feels like ages, increasing prices, There's a new term you'll hear called shrinkflation or K-shaped recovery or truck driver shortage or car shortages, and because of chip shortages, because of multiple other reasons, all of that is related to supply chain. So supply chain actually is turning out to be very, very interesting and exciting area. Everything you do, whether it's even human supply chain, people are not able to come and work. We don't have enough people to hire. That has a supply chain element to it. This is all about supply chain. Anybody, I teach multiple, so I teach at a basic supply chain 300 courses all the way to graduate level. As a matter of fact, it was very interesting to see West Campus from a vantage point of a drone, because I teach there a master's program in global logistics. I tell my students they're coming from finance background and engineering background and arts background, and they're required to take the supply chain course. And what I tell them is, if you want to be good at what you do, any business, whether it's construction or it's hospitality, supply chain will tell you how the business is run. Once you know how the business is run, whether you're a finance professional or an accounting professional or in fashion, you're going to be good at your job. So that's how important, and I absolutely agree with all the three previous speakers, that supply chain is the hottest topic today on the planet. And so that's where I come in. And we are seeing enrollments at ASU going through the roof. And you have an amazing, amazing asset right in your backyard, where the training part, we are like, we are in the top 2 supply chain program in the world. So next slide, please. Let's go to the next slide very quickly. So I'm a professor, so I love giving quizzes. So here's a pop quiz for all of you. I just cannot get away from it. I'm sorry. So let's go to the next slide. How many of these personalities are ASU alumni? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Rick, I knew you would be speaking just before me. So I should have included your name, but I did not, because you gave the answer up. Okay, exactly, bingo, all of them. And so if you look at from our Governor Doug Ducey to Phil Mickelson to Kristen Sinema to Kate Spade to Pat Tillman to Gregory Hales, all of them are ASU alumni. That's the asset you have. Even Ryan Wood, he's a co-founder for Under Armour. Just imagine the type of asset you have in your background. So, and Rick here became an entrepreneur, and what a successful entrepreneur he is today. So can we go on to the next slide, please? Just a few of things that people tend to forget because ASU is so big, that 5 MacArthur Fellows, 5 Nobel laureates, 7 Pulitzer Prize winners, 23 National Academy of Science members, 37 Guggenheim Fellows, #1 in the US for innovation, #1 in online bachelor's program, top 10 in the nation for patents. Just imagine the kind of awards and accolades that ASU, right in your backyard, right where the growth is happening, you have there. So when Hayden asked me this question, this question came, and David Spade, there you go. When I ran out of space on the slide, unfortunately, I wish I need more slides, and I have more alumni in there. When you are in a place that is the fastest growing market in the country, and you have a supply chain management program, that is in the top 2 in the world. Now that's a marriage made in heaven. So can you go to the next slide, please? So that's where we come in, Department of Supply Chain. It says top 3, it's actually 2 between Michigan and us. We keep on fighting for the number 1 and number 2 spot. What we do is, so very simple. This is for the audience. This is a very quick, not a pop quiz, I apologize for that. But what I tell my students, and you guys need to think about it too, difference between business strategy and supply chain strategy. What is the difference between supply chain strategy and operations management? What is the difference between supply chain strategy and supply chain management? Where does logistics and transportation fit into this whole picture? What is the role of information technology, and how do you tool yourself with artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, which is Internet of Things, the small things that that are invisible in a way. They're collecting data. At this moment today, there are 17 IoT devices for every human on the face of this earth. How is that going to play? Blockchain and robotic process automation, all of this is going to change industry and Arizona supply chain. So these things matter, and that's where the education to the next level, getting ready for what Rick and what Julie and what Kate are going to be looking for, we get students ready for that. So when you're looking for internship, if you're not in supply chain, we have internship programs with many other companies where you can get in after going through the ASU program. So next slide, please. ASU has 3 pillars on how we work. Actually 4: learning enterprise, enterprise partners, knowledge enterprises, and academic enterprises. So let me quickly talk about these 3 or 4 and how supply chain fits in. If you go to the next slide, please. So in the academic enterprise, these are the degrees we have: Bachelor of Science in Supply Chain Management, BA in Global Logistics, MBA in Supply Chain, MS in Business Analytics, MS in Global Logistics, and a new program, MS in Supply Chain Management, in which we partner with MIT. And these are the number of students that you see. So various flavors to suit different palates. All right. So can we go to the next slide, please? The learning enterprise is where our partnership with industry also comes into play. It could be online, self-paced, and it could be faculty-taught certificates. This is where we partner with industry, and then we have very focused industry hands-on workshop where we go to industries and we impart these trainings. So academic is more students full-time. Learning enterprise is continuous education, partnering with the industry. And then the third one, if you can go to the next slide, is program pathways. So people who want to get into ASU, and there could be either direct or you're looking at these 2 pathway programs. You can take online courses towards a degree, 2.75 GPA or higher, and get in. Or you can begin at a community college and then plan for a transfer pathway as a full-time into ASU. So there are 2 paths, 2 pathways through which you can enter into ASU. Go to the next slide, please. And the knowledge enterprise is where we are partnering with the industry to create, how do I say it, labs and experimentation to take our supply chain thinking to the next level. Few examples: CAPS Research, which is where we bring together procurement professionals for thought leadership; Health Sector Supply Chain Research Consortium, focused on health sector; Supply Chain Executive Council, where we have top industry players like Dell and Intel and Cisco and all come together and give us feedback on how to change the curriculum that will be ready for the students who are ready for the future. We just started something called Small and Medium Business Alliance, and I'll talk about just in a bit. Internet Edge Lab, which is how the internet and the physical world not only coalesce, but also collide. Frontier Economic Logistics Lab about developing world, how developed and developing worlds can work together. Capstone projects, we work with a lot of industry, and we have projects where our students do work for free for you, and they get graded for it, and you get such amazing deliverables from these students who are graduate students. And the final one is we are in the process of creating something called Factory Fitness Index, focused on Arizona, trying to see what is the health of the factory manufacturing operations in the state of Arizona. And we can, and I know I am only about a minute before my times get up, so if you can go to the next slide. Very quickly on the SME Alliance, because size was focused on very large companies, and Supply Chain Executive Council is a good example. What we have thought within Supply Chain Management Department is we lost focus from the small and medium enterprises, which are where the most of the jobs are, which is where most of the growth is, which is the sector which got most impacted by coronavirus. So we are trying to work together. We are trying to work together on bringing together the SME community on a platform where ASU can help solve some of their problems. And the deck will be available. Please, you're more than happy to read the deck, so I will not spend too much time on some of the slides. So the SME Alliance is a new initiative by the Supply Chain Management at the W.P. Carey School of Business. Can you go to the next slide, please? The first meeting happened last semester. We were expecting 10 companies. We had over 30 companies attend. Our next kickoff meeting, can you go to the next slide, please? And this is what we heard from them. Our question was very simple. What are your expectations from this alliance? What do you expect from ASU? And what are you willing to give back in returns? Most of the companies said, we will give internships, we will give case studies, we will help with employment opportunities to the students, but help them train so that they can quickly hit the ground running. And we've heard that. And we are working very closely to bring some of those feedbacks into action. Next slide, please. Our next meeting is in fall. The email ID will change, but I will send you, I'll update on the details of if anybody's interested. Next slide, please. This is what I just talked about, Factory Fitness Index. Manufacturing operations, think about you going to work in a 1950s gas guzzler, but you're going to work and you're working on how to reduce plastic waste in the ocean. Your factory, your car is the biggest pollutant, but you're trying to save plastic waste, the oceans from the plastic waste. So what we're saying is your manufacturing operations, it's a health to it. Okay, so let us tell you how to measure that. So this is again a new initiative that we have started, and we will be working very closely. We'll be running the pilot within the Arizona state, and to see how we fare against a Texas or a Washington state or a California. And let's see what the numbers come out to be. It will be very interesting. Next slide, please. So in summary, very strong ASU value proposition for all stakeholders, industry, government, job seekers. Large but nimble. Exciting things are happening across numerous fronts during exciting times for the state and for the economy. So we will provide the bridge between what Julie and Rick and Kate are looking, and we will provide you with the skill sets and the platform and the bridge to go on to that exciting job that's waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Phenomenal information. I don't think you like your job very much. There's not a lot of passion in there. Sarcastically, I'm saying that. It's awesome. Great to see. Vanessa, thank you for your comment in the chat. I'm not sure if the panelists have had an opportunity to view that, but she really appreciates the time that you've given and the information that you're sharing. We do have one question in the chat. I'd like to open it up to all of our panelists because I think it's a great question from Hayden asking, are there paid internship programs during the school year that can be continued through the summer. So I'll open it up to whoever would like to respond.
I will go ahead and just respond and then others can. The answer is yes. I have many students who have gone into paid internships, and the company, they did such a great job. The company said, stay on. It's very normal.
Yeah, the majority of internships at SRP are paid, and during the school year, we allow up to 20 hours a week, and during the summer, you can go up to 40 hours a week working. So definitely paid internships.
Yes, same here.
Yeah, and just to add to it, and industry folks can agree or not agree, but most of my students at the supply chain management, most of them who have got internship, I would say 80% of them have got full-time offers from the companies that they're working for.
Great. And Rick, you were saying yes as well for your company?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's a great start to a career path. You kind of get to test drive each other too, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you to all of our panelists. We are moving on to our workforce development resources section of our webinar today. We have Harvey Smith with us, who's the business services representative at Arizona at Work. And Harvey, I will turn it over to you. You might be on mute potentially. We can't hear you yet.
Did that help?
Much better, thank you.
Okay. All right, so obviously internet things, me are not a winning combination, but one thing I wanted to thank all of our previous panelists for was the reminder, and for those who don't know about supply chain logistics, just how friendly the people who work in this industry are, and how people-centered they are. I mean, yes, we're interested in moving objects, but it's about people. So with that, let me introduce myself. I'm Harvey Smith. I'm a business service representative for Arizona at Work, Maricopa County. Next slide, please. So Arizona at Work, Maricopa County is part of a statewide workforce development system. We are federally funded by the Department of Labor's Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And essentially, our job is to enhance the local labor pool for our business partners. And so we work on both sides of the equation, both the job seeker, how do we enhance their ability to find and maintain gainful employment, and we work with businesses, how do we find their next superstar. So we're interested in upskilling the existing labor pool. We're interested in sometimes showing recruiters, especially smaller business owners, where to look for people. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you're interested in finding out about supply chain jobs, there are 70,000 posted jobs on our statewide job board, AZ Job Connection. For the businesses and recruiters, as of 5 o'clock last night, there was 20,000 posted resumes on here. So this is a employment job board which works for both sides. Next slide. Okay, so if you are a job seeker and you come to one of our two centers, what can you do? Well, we can start off with very basic. We can provide you a computer time. We can provide you job leads. We can assist you with career exploration. So for example, if you're thinking of changing careers, hopefully you're here attending this webinar because you're looking at supply chain, transportation, logistics. We can assist you with your resume. Again, if you're just starting out in life, or if you're looking to change careers and maybe your resume speaks to an industry that you're no longer looking to work in, we can help you with that. We can also assist you with interview techniques. A lot of us find interviews a little intimidating. I have a theory that we should be allowed to have interviews in coffee shops and just sit down with folks, have a cup of coffee and chat, but Doesn't always work that way. So if you are struggling with successfully navigating your interview, come and see us. We can assist. We have a job blast. It comes out twice a week, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. We also have the Arizona Career Readiness Credential, and this is something that has been mentioned by some of our previous speakers. We'll come back to that in a minute. Lastly, occupational skills training. So what this means is if you, as a job seeker, need a industry recognized credential or vocational certificate, it may be possible for us to help with federal grant money pay for that. So for example, if you're looking to become a CDL driver, it's a 4-week course, it costs about $4,000. We may be able to help with that. Next slide, please. Okay, so our famous job blast, this is how you can sign up for it, is AZ at work, just text that, and follow the instructions. Now, I recommend this for a variety of reasons. It comes out twice a week. Once a week, we send out a list of resources. So, for example, if you're looking for assistance with, say, rental assistance, or you want to find out where can I get a food box, that's the sort of information you'll find in one of those emails. The second email comes out with a list of upcoming career fairs and events, such as the one you're attending now, and jobs. Now, the jobs, depending on which day of the week it is, can be listed either by city. So, for example, if you want to stay and work in the West Valley and you really like your new house and Surprise and want to have a short commute, you can look for jobs based just on the city of Surprise. Or if you're interested in learning about job opportunities inside certain industries, we send those out too. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've heard from everybody who's spoken before me about the challenges of finding people to fill positions. So this, if you are a job seeker, this job market is unlike any most of us have ever seen. So I use a tool called Talent Neuron that allows me to look at all the currently posted jobs in the West Valley. So that's the 16 West Valley cities. What I discovered is there's nearly 1,000 currently posted CDL job postings. Now that's only job postings. The actual individual posting might have, say, 10 positions. So we can safely, I believe, double the number. Package handlers, boxes have to be loaded, unloaded, sorted, rearranged, nearly 1,000 of those. Warehouse workers, 740. All of this requires effective customer service. Guess what? There are 240 different postings in the West Valley as of Monday night. And of course, when you have operations, you need managers. 80 posted positions, again, as of Monday. So I hope if you are looking at a career in the West Valley in supply chain logistics, this will hearten you and encourage you to do a little bit of research. Next slide, please. Okay, so when you look at the top skill sets desired by employers based on the descriptions in the job postings I've just shared with you, number one is communication. Number two is customer service. 3 is operational, 4 is scheduling, which makes sense. But the top two, all of the speakers, all of the panelists before me have brought up the top two, communication and customer service. Yes, you might be physically moving things, but you still need to communicate. Next slide, please. So, Dirk, I really, Richard, I want to thank you for your input on soft skills, because the governor, Governor Ducey, also heard the cry for help from business partners. What they were running into was they would find people who on paper were a perfect fit for the job, but maybe weren't a perfect fit in terms of soft skills. So Governor Ducey implemented the Arizona Career Readiness Credential. And this is a way for the job seeker to demonstrate their soft skills, to demonstrate their ability to work well with teams, to work directly with customers, and so on. It is not an easy credential to get. But if your job seeker shows up as one of these, then it shows you that they're serious about understanding the soft skills side of it, because attitude and trainability above beyond any credential is what we're looking for. So if you are a job seeker and you would like to attain your Arizona Career Readiness credential, come and see us. Next slide, please. Occupational skills training. So if you, as a job seeker, have decided that yes, you would like to have your CDL, or maybe you would like to get an entry-level credential for supply chain, logistics, or warehouse management, we can assist with that through the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, up to a certain amount, depending on whether the job is in a high-demand, high-growth field, which I have to be honest, supply chain logistics absolutely is. So if you are thinking of changing careers and you're looking at all these job postings and thinking, gosh, I don't have the one credential I see being asked for each and every time, don't let that stop you. Come and see us. Come and find out what's possible. Next slide, please. Okay, so for information about the Arizona Career Readiness credentials or vocational certificates, reach out to us at maricopa.gov/find-a-job. One day we'll fill out a job seeker inquiry form and we'll follow up with you. When you complete that form, it will allow us to discern which of our teams you should be seeing, whether you just need help writing a resume or whether you know you need to change careers and you're kind of interested in supply chain logistics, but want to understand the best way you're going to connect. We can help with that. Next slide, please. Okay, so to have questions, again, my name is Harvey Smith. I'm business service representative for Arizona at Work, Maricopa County. Supply chain, logistics, and transportation in the West Valley is one of my sectors. And when we say West Valley, that's pretty much everything from I-17 out to the county line, which means that I have the joy of working in 3 of the fastest growing cities in the country. Thank you.
Harvey, thank you so much for your presentation. A couple things that I wanted to point out to our audience. One, the newsletter that you talked about and the information and resources, I really encourage everyone to sign up for that. They are phenomenal, full of great information and resources for the community. So I'm really encouraging our group to sign up for that. The second thing is those job open numbers are staggering. I had no idea that there were that many job openings in the West Valley, specifically related to those careers that you noted. And lastly, the top skills desired, that slide I thought was super important. We talked about this in our other panelists, with our other panelists as well, in terms of communication and soft skills, and you alluded to that, but super important. So great presentation. Thank you so much. I don't see any questions so far, and so we are going to move on to our next presenter, our last presenter of the day, to talk about next steps, employer and job seeker resources. Jasmine Chamblin from Pipeline AZ, welcome, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, and huge shout out to Westmark and ASU for putting together this amazing spotlight. So for the job seekers tuning in today, Pipeline Arizona really serves as a career matching and exploration platform built and designed for the Arizona community. For the candidate matching portion of this event that Christine mentioned, that will go on for a duration until August 24th. Even after that point, you can still match with relevant job postings and opportunities on the platform. But just for the sake of this particular spotlight, that's the duration of time. But yeah, you can actually register for Pipeline Arizona by visiting the link that I just dropped in the chat if you haven't done so already. And if you have any questions on the platform, please feel free to DM or direct message your career coach. We have those on the platform, and I will go into more detail about that right now. Next slide, please. So first and foremost, Pipeline Arizona strives to bring together educators, employers, and job seekers to basically build and maintain a sustainable talent pipeline in Arizona. That's really where we track our success, and we operate as a 501c3. So that is the success that we seek to measure. Next slide. So on the platform, again, it's the career matching and exploration platform. So if you're looking for a new job, or if you're looking to reskill or upskill, you can find all of that within the site. This is our career exploration page, where you can explore industries, look at training, career pathways, certificates, really anything to get you to where you want to be within your career. Next slide. So first things first, when you sign up, you are prompted to take a skills and interests test. This is really the bread and butter of the platform. It works off of a skills-based algorithm. So we want to know what skills you have, what you're interested in, so we can help point you in that right direction, and really potentially match you with some really great jobs to get your foot in the door. Next slide, please. So exploration by industry. You can explore the jobs and employers that are featured for this spotlight event on the platform under the transportation and logistics industry, as well as other industries. But you can find very impactful information as you're on your career search that will kind of help you align to what you're really interested in. Next slide, please. So these career pages, this gets into like the nitty gritty information you may be interested in, right? So the average salary in Arizona for these given positions, what kind of level positions would I be qualified for, and what do those really even entail, right? So you'll find those career pathways, you'll find those opportunity listings as well that are relevant to you. Next slide, please. So career pathways, you know, having been a recent graduate from the, an ASU master's program during a pandemic, that was pretty crazy. So for those of you who are looking for career pathways and are looking to either reskill, upskill, transition into a new field, highly encourage you to just dive in, right? And just see what those interests and skills align to. You can, again, see those entry, mid, and expert level positions, and you can see where you stand and see what certifications you need to get into your desired position. Next slide, please. So your career matching profile is a really, really, really great opportunity for you to stand out as a candidate. This is where you can feature any of your experience, your internships, if you're trying to get an internship. This is a really great opportunity for you to highlight your current skill sets. You know, what Rick was referring to, you know, in regards to, we want, you know, hardworking people who are passionate. Highlight that in your career matching profile. Employers love to see that. And you can also do the same by looking at the company pages as well to see if it's a good fit and see if that company culture will really bring out that best, you know, the best in you, essentially. But yeah, you can also upload additional documentation. So if you have letters of recommendation, if you have a cover letter, you can really upload and make your profile your own. It's editable, much like a LinkedIn profile. So, you know, my advice would just be to copy and paste what you've got on your LinkedIn. Hopefully it's updated, and put that into your career matching profile. It could be a really great resource for you as you're getting yourself out there in front of employers. Next slide, please. So on the employer side, I'll talk about this briefly. Next slide, please. So again, on the employer side, companies have that opportunity to build out a company profile. This is forms and surfaces. This is just some of their you know, they can speak to company culture, community involvement, ideal candidate, and hiring process. So as a job seeker, you have that opportunity to look and see, well, is this going to be a lengthy hiring process? What kind of benefits do I get? You can also see, you know, that community involvement if that is something very important to you. Next slide, please. And again, so for employers, it is unlimited and free job postings. So, you know, this is a great tool to get your company name out there, match with some qualified candidates. And again, it's free. So we do operate as a nonprofit. There is no cap to your job postings. There's no cap to any of the services on the platform, essentially. Next slide, please. And that's all I have today. If anybody here has questions, employers, job seekers, you can email me at jchamblin@pipelineaz.com. Again, I am very passionate about this platform. I think, if there's a time to be exploring career pathways and looking into the transportation and supply chain industry, it is now. So thank you so much for having me.
Jasmine, thank you. That was a great presentation. And I've watched Pipeline AZ grow and expand and become such a tremendous platform. So for those of you that haven't experienced it, I really encourage you to check it out. I don't see any more questions in our chat or in the Q&A. And so that brings our webinar to a close for transportation, logistics, and supply chain management. Again, Jasmine talked about the job matching component that will be happening. If you'd like to come back and watch this webinar again, if you missed any part of it, it's being recorded and it will be available on the Westmark Pipeline AZ landing page. And that link is in the chat. And looks like we have a comment just thanking all the panelists for an informative and enlightening presentation. Everything was excellent. And so again, I'll express my thanks to all of our panelists and speakers. You did a phenomenal job. It's great to see the growth that's happening and appreciate you being here today, sharing your time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.